Welcome to the Oscillator Course 1 of the HT8 MCU Basic Tutorial. This course will introduce the HT8 MCU oscillators from 4 aspects, which are Oscillator Introduction, Internal High-Speed RC Oscillator, Internal Medium-Speed RC Oscillator, and Internal Low-Speed RC Oscillator. Oscillator Introduction. What is an oscillator? An oscillator is a circuit which generates a continuous, repeated and alternating waveform. An oscillator converts a constant unidirectional current from a DC power supply into a signal waveform of the frequency required by the electronic component. The oscillators in the HT8 MCUs include external high-speed crystal oscillator, external low-speed crystal oscillator, internal high-speed RC oscillator, and internal low-speed RC oscillator. For the HT8 low-power MCU series, there exists an internal medium-speed RC oscillator. We can see that the oscillators can be categorized as not only high-speed and low-speed oscillators, but also internal and external oscillators. What are the differences between high-speed oscillators and low-speed oscillators? Compared with low-speed oscillators, high-speed oscillators can output higher clock frequencies to provide higher performance, while resulting in high power consumption, which means to consume more electricity. Low-speed oscillators, on the other hand, output lower clock frequencies, providing lower performance but with the benefit of low power consumption, which means to consume less electricity. What are the differences between internal oscillators and external oscillators? Compared with external oscillators, internal oscillators do not require external components, but their accuracy is average and greatly affected by temperature. The accuracy is related to temperature and operating voltage. Please refer to the MCU datasheet. When the accuracy of the internal oscillator is not sufficient, an external oscillator can be used to meet the requirements. External oscillators require external components, but their accuracy is higher and less affected by temperature. Please refer to the ppm value of the external crystal oscillator for accuracy error. The smaller the ppm value, the higher the accuracy. Next, let's take a look at the 3 internal oscillators. Internal high-speed RC oscillator. The internal high-speed RC oscillator is a fully integrated system oscillator, requiring no external components. It supports some common frequencies such as 2 MHz, 4 MHz, 8 MHz, 12 MHz, and 16 MHz. When the FHS bit in the SCC register is cleared to 0, the internal high-speed RC oscillator will be used as the high-frequency clock source. Additionally, pay attention to the operating frequency characteristic curve. When the MCU operates at an 8 MHz clock frequency, the operating voltage must be 1.8 volts or above. The operating voltage must be 2.7 volts or above for 12 MHz and be 3.3 volts or above for 16 MHz. In the HT8 MCUs, the internal high-speed RC oscillator is configured by the HIRCC and SCC registers. Taking the HT66F3195 as an example, how can we configure a 16 MHz internal high-speed RC oscillator to work properly? First, set the HIRC1 to HIRC0 bits to 10 to select 16 MHz. Then, set the enable bit HIRCEN to 1 to enable the internal high-speed RC oscillator. Next, wait for the stable flag HIRCF to change to 1, which means that the clock signal of the internal high-speed RC oscillator has stabilized. Finally, clear the FHS bit to 0 to select the internal high-speed RC oscillator as the high-frequency clock source. Generally, the system defaults to use the internal high-speed RC oscillator with a frequency of 8 MHz, which only requires to select the frequency using the HIRC1 to HIRC0 bits. Note that when writing code into the MCU, the development tool will adjust the frequency accuracy of the internal high-speed RC oscillator according to the selected frequency and operating voltage in the configuration options of the development platform. Internal medium-speed RC oscillator. Only the HT8 low-power MCU series has an internal medium-speed RC oscillator, with a slightly different structure than other MCU series, and has an additional register for system clock configuration. This oscillator has some common frequencies of 64 kHz, 128 kHz, 256 kHz, and 512 kHz. The internal medium-speed RC oscillator can be selected as the high-frequency clock source by setting the IRC2 to IRC0 bits in the IRCC register, with a value from 100 to 111, and by clearing the FHC bit in the SCC register to 0. For details on how to configure the internal medium-speed RC oscillator, please refer to the internal high-speed RC oscillator part. Internal low-speed RC oscillator. The internal low-speed RC oscillator also has no need for external components. This oscillator has a common frequency of 32 kHz or 32.768 kHz. When the FSS bit in the SCC register is cleared to 0, the internal low-speed RC oscillator is used as the low-frequency clock source. In the HT8 MCUs, the internal low-speed RC oscillator is configured using the SCC register. Take the HT66F3195 as an example. The internal low-speed RC oscillator can be used as the low-frequency clock source by clearing the FSS bit to 0. Generally, no configuration is required because the FSS bit has a default value of 0, which means that the internal low-speed RC oscillator is selected by default. Course summary. In this course, we have learned what an oscillator is, what there are, and also learned 3 types of internal oscillators. Through the study of this course, you will not only have a certain understanding of oscillators, but also further deepen your understanding of system clocks. Holtec has a professional service team to assist in development design and after-sales service. Please feel free to contact our business departments for more detailed product information and consultation services.